The towering iron gates of Maplewood Academy gleamed under the morning sun, a testament to the prestige of the institution. Known for its elite status, sprawling campus, and state-of-the-art facilities, Maplewood was a haven for the privileged. The Academy's red brick buildings, laced with ivy, overlooked expansive fields, laboratories, and lecture halls. On her first day, 13-year-old Maya Carter felt the weight of Maplewood's exclusivity. She had earned her spot with the support of her mother, Camille, a successful black entrepreneur who had built a respected nonprofit organization from the ground up. Camille, a woman of resilience and grace, had fought her entire life against prejudice and obstacles, achieving success on her own terms. To Maya, her mother was a beacon of strength, and Maya was determined not to let her down. However, as Maya walked down Maplewood's gleaming corridors, she felt the unspoken barriers between her and her classmates. Most students wore designer clothes and carried themselves with an air of entitlement that felt foreign to her. Her uniform, though identical, seemed different on her somehow. Despite trying to ignore the whispers and sidelong glances, a growing feeling of unease crept into her heart. In her first class, Maya encountered Mr. Thompson, a tall, silver-haired teacher with an iron reputation. He was known for his rigid standards, tailored suits, and the cold, discerning gaze he cast over his students. On that first day, he barely acknowledged Maya. His glance was indifferent, as if she were invisible, moving swiftly on to students he deemed more worthy of his attention. As days turned into weeks, a painful pattern emerged. Whenever Maya raised her hand to contribute, Mr. Thompson would look right past her, favoring other students. Her answers, thoughtful as they were, met with only impatience or a dismissive nod. Each dismissal chipped away at her confidence, making her feel small and unworthy. Alone at lunchtime, Maya tried to hold back her loneliness and keep her feelings from her mother. Camille believed in her daughter's resilience, often telling her, "Maya, you belong wherever you choose to be." Maya clung to these words, hoping they would carry her through the growing isolation. As Mr. Thompson's behavior escalated, Maya began dreading his class. He no longer simply ignored her contributions but dismissed them openly. In one painful incident, she bravely offered a solution during a chemistry lesson. Mr. Thompson's lips curled in a slight smirk. "Interesting perspective, Maya," he sneered, drawing out her name as though it were something peculiar. "But perhaps you should leave complex concepts to students who are more prepared." A hush fell over the room, then whispers and snickers from her classmates. Maya's face flushed with embarrassment. She lowered her gaze, feeling as though every eye was on her, judging her. Inside, a storm of shame and anger brewed. She had studied hard, prepared diligently, yet it felt as though none of it mattered. The following day, during a chemistry experiment, Mr. Thompson assigned Maya a task and watched her every move, mocking her aloud. "Careful, Maya, this isn't something you'd want to mess up." His words hit her like barbs. With trembling hands, she tried to steady herself, but a small spill caused Mr. Thompson's sneer to deepen. He turned to the class, his voice dripping with disdain. "See, this is what I mean. Some students just aren't cut out for this." Maya's classmates stifled laughter, and her heart sank, heavy with humiliation. She wanted to shrink away, to escape the ridicule. That night, the weight of her experiences broke through her silence. Sitting across from her mother at dinner, Maya couldn't hold back any longer. In a whisper, she said, "Mom, I don't think I belong at Maplewood." Camille, sensing her daughter's pain, reached out and listened as Maya recounted every painful detail. Camille's calm exterior masked the anger simmering within. She felt Maya's hurt deeply, each word reminding her of her own struggles with prejudice. Her resolve strengthened as she held Maya's hand. "Maya," Camille said, "no one has the right to make you feel small. I'm going to make sure they understand that." That night, Camille sat alone in her study, her mind racing with thoughts of Maya's pain and humiliation. She couldn't bear the idea of her daughter suffering in silence, shrinking under the weight of prejudice in a place meant to nurture her. Camille had fought too hard in her own life to let someone else's bias define Maya's sense of worth. She took a deep breath, her heart steeling with a mother's resolve. This wasn't just about Maya. It was about every child who had ever felt less than, undeserving, or unworthy. Camille reached for her phone, dialing the number of Simone Ellis, her close friend and trusted civil rights attorney. "Simone, I need your help," Camille began, her voice steady but filled with urgency. She recounted Maya's experiences, her frustration sharpening as she spoke. By the time she finished, she could hear Simone's quiet but unwavering determination on the other end. "That teacher picked the wrong family," Simone said. "Let's get everything we need to make this right. We won't back down until we see change." Over the next few days, Camille sprang into action, reaching out to other parents and allies in her network. She shared Maya's story carefully, listening as other parents began to reveal similar experiences. Some of their children, too, had felt the sting of Mr. Thompson's bias, an insidious attitude that had crept into the very heart of the school. As Camille's list of allies grew, she felt an empowering sense of solidarity. These parents, particularly those of minority backgrounds, shared her vision for a school where every child felt safe, valued, and respected. Simone guided Camille in gathering evidence and crafting a clear argument. They collected statements from parents, each one a heartbreaking account of the prejudice and isolation their children had endured. Camille's determination only grew with each new story. She wasn't just speaking up for Maya. She was representing a movement, a voice for every child struggling under the weight of silence and shame. The night before the school board meeting, Camille looked in the mirror, adjusting her tailored suit, her heart steady with purpose. She glanced at Maya, who watched her with a mixture of admiration and hope. "Tomorrow, Maya, we'll make sure they hear us," Camille said, resting a reassuring hand on her daughter's shoulder. This wasn't just a meeting, it was a battle for justice and dignity. And Camille was ready. The day of the school board meeting arrived with a palpable tension in the air. Camille walked into Maplewood Academy's administrative building, her posture straight and her resolve unbreakable. Word of her planned confrontation had already spread, and as she passed other parents and students in the hallways, she felt their curious and expectant gazes. She was here not only as Maya's mother, but as an advocate for all children who had ever felt excluded or belittled. Entering the conference room, Camille found herself face to face with the board members and Mr. Thompson himself. He sat near the end of the table, his posture confident, wearing a faint smirk that sent a chill down Camille's spine. Beside her was Simone, calm and composed, offering silent support with a reassuring nod. Around the table were parents who had come to witness the meeting, their faces a mixture of hope and trepidation. The chairman of the board, Mr. Whitaker, cleared his throat, beginning the meeting with a polite yet guarded tone. "Thank you all for attending. Today, we are here to address some recent concerns raised by Ms. Johnson and other parents." Camille stood, her heart pounding with a mix of anticipation and determination. She took a steadying breath before addressing the room. "Thank you, Mr. Whitaker. I'm here as Maya's mother, but also as a voice for every student in this school who deserves respect and encouragement, not humiliation and bias. Mr. Thompson's behavior has shown a consistent disregard for certain students, singling them out for ridicule instead of support." With clear conviction, she detailed each incident of Mr. Thompson's dismissive remarks and mocking treatment toward Maya, then opened the folder of statements from other parents, sharing each heartbreaking account. As she spoke, the tension in the room grew, and she could see discomfort flickering across the faces of several board members. Some leaned forward, their expressions softening, while others exchanged uneasy glances. But Mr. Thompson's face remained impassive, his faint smirk only deepening. Camille met his gaze directly, unyielding. Miss Delaney, one of the board members, spoke up defensively. "Miss Johnson, we understand your concerns, but Mr. Thompson has been with us for 2 decades. That it's not easy to take disciplinary action based on a few isolated complaints." Camille's jaw tightened. "With all due respect, Miss Delaney, these are not isolated complaints. These are lived experiences of real children who feel unworthy, hurt, and dismissed. And if Maplewood refuses to act, then we will go public." The room fell silent as Camille's words hung heavily in the air. In the days following the board meeting, Camille felt a mixture of hope and vigilance. The board had promised a formal investigation, yet she knew how easily such inquiries could lose momentum, swept aside by bureaucratic delays. Determined to hold them accountable, Camille stayed in close contact with Simone, who reminded her, "They'll try to wait this out, hoping it fades. We need to keep the pressure on them." Camille rallied the parents who had supported her, updating them on the board's response and encouraging them to stay involved. Together, they agreed to keep a close eye on the school's progress, sharing information and preparing for further action if necessary. For Camille, this was not just about Maya. It was about making Maplewood a safe and inclusive place for all children. She knew that change could not come without perseverance. A week later, Camille received an unexpected call from the school's administration. The board had completed its initial investigation and was preparing to hold a press conference to announce their decision. Her heart raced with a cautious hope. This could be the turning point she'd been fighting for. But she also knew that words alone would not be enough. She needed to see real commitment to action. On the day of the press conference, Camille arrived at the school, accompanied by Simone and a group of supportive parents. As they entered the packed room, the quiet tension was almost tangible. Reporters lined the back of the room, their cameras ready, and board members sat at the front, their expressions sober. Mr. Whitaker, the chairman, took his place at the podium, clearing his throat as he prepared to speak. "After a thorough investigation, we have determined that Mr. Thompson's actions were not aligned with the values of Maplewood Academy," Mr. Whitaker announced, his voice steady. "Effective immediately, Mr. Thompson will be placed on administrative leave while we review our policies to ensure an environment of respect and inclusion for all students." A collective murmur spread through the crowd as reporters scribbled down notes. Camille felt a surge of relief and a small sense of victory. But she wasn't done. Standing from her seat, she addressed the room, her voice clear and unwavering. "We appreciate your decision, Mr. Whitaker. But let's be clear, this isn't just about one teacher. It's about making sure that every child at Maplewood feels safe and respected. We'll be here to ensure these promises are kept." Mr. Whitaker nodded, acknowledging her words. "You have our assurance, Miss Johnson. We are committed to building a community where every student feels valued." As the press conference ended, Camille felt a weight lift from her shoulders. It was a victory, but she knew this was only one step forward. As the press conference ended, Camille stepped outside, taking in a deep breath of the cool air. She felt the weight of weeks of tension finally beginning to lift. There, standing a few steps away, was Maya, waiting anxiously. When their eyes met, Maya's face lit up with gratitude and relief. She ran to her mother, wrapping her arms around her, and whispered, "Thank you, Mom. I feel like I belong here now." Camille held her daughter close, her heart swelling with pride and resolve. "Always, sweetheart. You deserve to feel safe and respected, just like everyone else." She pulled back slightly, looking into Maya's eyes. "Never let anyone make you feel small." As they walked away from the school together, Camille's mind was filled with thoughts about the future. The board's decision to remove Mr. Thompson and implement new policies had been a critical victory, yet she knew the battle wasn't over. The changes at Maplewood would require careful oversight to ensure they were not just symbolic but genuinely impactful. Beside her, Simone joined them, her expression reflecting both satisfaction and determination. "You did it, Camille," she said, placing a reassuring hand on her friend's shoulder. "This is a huge step forward, not just for Maya, but for all the students here." Camille nodded, feeling the weight of that truth. This victory belonged to every parent who had joined her, to every child who had ever felt unseen or undervalued. She knew that prejudice wasn't something that could be wiped out overnight. It was a continuous fight that required vigilance, compassion, and courage. But as long as she could, Camille would stand on the front lines of that fight. In the weeks that followed, Camille kept a close eye on the changes Maplewood promised to make. The school implemented training sessions for faculty and staff on diversity, equity, and inclusion, ensuring that every teacher understood the importance of creating a respectful learning environment. Camille attended school meetings, advocating for lasting change, her voice now one of quiet authority and earned respect. Maya's confidence began to grow again. Her days brightened by a newfound sense of belonging. She had seen her mother fight for her and knew now that her voice mattered, that she deserved to be heard. Camille smiled to herself, filled with a sense of purpose. This journey had strengthened her, reaffirming her belief in justice and in the power of community. She had won a battle, but she knew that this was just one victory in a larger fight. For Maya, for every child who dared to dream, Camille was prepared to continue her work, to ensure that all children could learn, grow, and thrive in a world that valued them fully. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe so you won't miss any of our latest videos. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them below. Thank you all for taking the time to watch, and see you in the next video.